His Excellency Uhuru Kenyatta, President of the Republic of Kenya, and the First Lady, Mrs. Margaret Kenyatta, paid a visit to Uganda from 8th to 10th August 2015. The two heads of states and their delegations held fruitful discussions on a number of issues of common interest at bilateral, regional, and international levels. They expressed satisfaction at the strong bilateral relations existing between the two countries and reiterated their commitment to enhance further these relations. President Museveni noted that Kenya exported to Uganda an estimated $700 million compared to Uganda's imports worth $180 million, and commended President Kenyatta for implementing initiatives that would contribute to bridging the trade gap. The two heads of state observed that bilateral trade was potential to grow further and reaffirmed their commitments to the free movement of goods, labor, and services, including the elimination of all trade barriers. The two heads of states welcomed the establishment of the Uganda-Kenya Joint Ministerial Commission as an important framework for deepening and expanding bilateral cooperation to a higher and more comprehensive level. At the instructions of the two heads of states, the delegations met at a ministerial level and discussed a range of bilateral issues. They decided to concretize agreed areas within the framework of the Joint Ministerial Commission. President Museveni reiterated Uganda's position to develop an oil refinery, noting that protracted engagement with the industry on the importance of an oil refinery for Uganda had delayed commercialization of the country's petroleum resources. On development of crude oil exportation pipeline, the two heads of states noted that oil in Uganda was discovered 9 years ago, and therefore development of crude oil export on the refined products pipeline from Mombasa via Eldoret to Kampala. The head of states agreed to develop a reverse flow petroleum product pipeline capable of transporting imported petroleum products to Uganda and also from the refinery in Uganda to Kenya. President Museveni expressed his government's desire to develop the least cost route to export our oil to the East African coast. In this regard, the two heads of states agreed on the use of the northern route, that is the Oima, Loikicha, Lamu, for the development of the crude oil pipeline, subject to the government of Kenya guaranteeing the following: security on the Kenya side of the pipeline, financing of the project, transit fees, and traffic tariffs in any case not higher than would be payable on an alternative route, and implementation of the project without further delay. The two heads of states agreed that regional integration is key to shared prosperity, expressed their deep commitment to integration of the East African community, and reaffirmed their support towards realization of the East African Political Federation. The two heads of states exchanged views on the political and security development in the region. In this regard, they reaffirmed their commitments to continue working together with the respective governments and other stakeholders in resolving outstanding challenges in Somalia, South Sudan, and Burundi. The two heads of states expressed their concern on the continuing peace and security challenges in the region, particularly the emergence of extremism and terrorism. They agreed to intensify joint efforts to counter terrorism. During his visit, President Uhuru toured Cipla Quality Chemical Industry, a pharmaceutical plant located in Kampala, manufacturing antiretroviral ARVs and anti-malarial drugs. He applauded the state-of-the-art facility being run by Ugandan professionals and reiterated the desire to support important industries such as Cipla, which are located in the region, and to be treated as domestic industries for purposes of procurement. President Uhuru addressed the Business Forum, which was attended by the private sector from the two countries. He encouraged the use of forum to strengthen economic cooperation through establishing networks and partnerships to stimulate innovations and competitiveness in business. President Kenyatta witnessed the signing of a memorandum of understanding between Uganda National Chamber of Commerce and Industry and the Kenyan National Chamber of Commerce and Industry to promote common interests. On the third day of his visit, His Excellency President Uhuru Kenyatta made a historic address to the Parliament of Uganda, where he stressed the need for deepening East African integration. His Excellency urged East Africans to work together for shared prosperity. President Museveni expressed his appreciation, particularly to Kenya and other nations that supported Uganda to overcome her past challenges. His Excellency President Uhuru Kenyatta expressed his appreciation to the government and the people of Uganda for the warm welcome and hospitality which was accorded to him and his delegation. His Excellency President Uhuru Kenyatta extended an invitation to His Excellency President Yoweri Museveni to visit Kenya on a date to be mutually determined through diplomatic channels, done on this date of 10th August 2015 at Entebbe in Uganda. I thank you.
Your Excellency the President, it is now my pleasure to invite Your Excellencies to make remarks and thereafter for the press to ask a few questions. Your Excellency.
Well, the Minister should have added in the communique that the invitation was extended and was gladly accepted. But now he just left it like that, as if. So you amend accordingly. Well, members of the press, here you had the communique. I think the communique is clear. Kenya, Uganda, Tanzania, all these countries, they have three important things. First of all, they are linked geographically. So there's the geography, which you can't do anything about. Whether you hate your neighbor or you like him, the geography settled that matter. And did not settle it for 5 years or 10 years or 20 years, forever. Even when Jesus comes, I think he will not change that. So you have the geography, then you have what I said in Parliament today, the need for prosperity, for our families to be prosperous, our businesses, and then you have security. And then on top of that, this geographically linked area is populated by people who are linked. So actually you're talking about four things: geography, prosperity, security, and kinship. Kinship. You're talking of four things. So I don't know what one can add. The unfortunate thing is that the press does not spend time talking about these issues. It spends time talking about football clubs in Europe and all that. And that denies our children from learning what is crucial for their future. Because these four things are crucial for the future of our children. And the press should be doing everything possible to educate everybody about these four: the geography that links us, the prosperity that we need, the security that we need, the kinship that we have. But when I read the papers, even the ones of Kenya, I don't see anything about that. It's just about things on the moon, things on the South Pole, things on the North Pole. But how can people talk about everything except themselves? What sort of cleverness is that? How can you talk about all things on earth except yourself? Okay, you can talk about things on the North Pole, South Pole, but also have some time for yourself. Say that I am here, I am a human being, I want security, and in order to get security, I need to do this. I need prosperity, and in order to get prosperity, I need to do this, so that you have a balanced press. But that one I don't see. So those are just my few comments to the press.
Thank you, Your Excellency. I also don't think I have much to add. I think the Minister was very comprehensive in his communique as to what we have discussed and the details that have been focused upon by our respective ministers and officials. Mine is just to re-emphasize what you have just said, that the importance of our visit here is really just to strengthen and to re-emphasize the critical point that Kenya and Uganda, and indeed the entire Eastern African region, is very closely interlinked. And our prosperity, our stability, our security is tied to one another. And therefore we need to do everything possible as governments to ensure that we bring our people closer together and we remove any barriers that may hinder our people from moving freely, from trading with one another. And that really is the responsibility of governments. And the closer we work together, the more frequently we visit one another, the better able we are to deal with some of these challenges in order to enable our people achieve the prosperity they deserve. I think we have, as I said in Parliament, we have an asset, especially in our young people, who we need to encourage to break down some of these barriers that are actually not even physical barriers, they are more mental barriers. The education and exposure they have, we need to encourage them to partner together, to work together in order for us to be able to develop and to grow our economies. So therefore, Your Excellency, mine is just to say that once again, we are deeply appreciative of the hospitality that we have received from yourself and our brothers and sisters here in Uganda. We are also equally looking forward to receiving you in the soonest or the shortest possible time in Nairobi on a state visit as well, on top of the regular meetings that we have been having as member states of the Northern Corridor. As you well are aware, we meet quarterly. We are making very good progress on a good number of infrastructural projects that are aimed at bringing our countries closer together, and we will continue to soldier on with regard to those particular agenda. And mine really is to just to ask all players, it's not the responsibility just of governments to bridge these gaps. The government has a role, our parliamentarians have a role, our private sector has a role, our young people have a role, our political parties have a role, all citizenry has a role in ensuring that we bring our people together. The media especially has a role in helping us bring our countries closer together. So let us play our part and let us achieve our dream of shared prosperity together. Thank you, Your Excellency.
Can we have maximum of 6 questions?
Okay. 6 questions and 1 question for each person. You mention your name and the media house and ask the question. Yes, please.
Thank you, Your Excellencies. My name is Joseph. Thank you, Excellencies. My name is Joseph Fabit. I work with NBS Television. Your neighbor's house has been on fire for quite some time. During your bilateral talks, did you touch on anything to do with the question of South Sudan and the crisis in Burundi? Thank you.
No, we talked about them. That's what the communique said. The communique said that we talked about all those.
Burundi, South Sudan.
We talked, it's mentioned. But of course we don't have to tell you what we talked about. Because this is part of the problem. You seem to think that we are working for the press. We are not journalists. Our job is to solve problems. But it was in the communique that we talked about them, about those two issues. What we talked about, we can't tell you. You will know when it is concluded, because we are just, as members of EAC, East African Community, we are just two. The other three are not here. So even if we discuss Burundi, whatever we discuss, we can't externalize unless we have involved all the others. On the issue of South Sudan and the IGAD, again, we're just two of us. There are others who are not here. And whatever we discuss, we cannot externalize without the involvement of others. But we did discuss Burundi, South Sudan. We discussed them.
The lady.
Thank you, Your Excellencies. My name is Shiland Huchde from NTV Uganda. After this conference, we understand you'll be reconstituting yourselves into, IGAD to discuss some regional issues. And one of your guests, or one of the people that is supposed to be here, is President of Sudan, Omar el-Bashir. And Uganda is a signatory to the Rome Statute. Will there be any implications on Omar el-Bashir if he steps here? His Excellency Omar el-Bashir, if he comes here. Thank you.
Well, there's what we call Buyaiism in Uganda. Are you a Ugandan? Young girl. Buyai, I don't know whether we can translate it in Swahili. Wahuni. I think the translation in Swahili will be wahuni, kihuni. Tabia za kihuni. We are not wahuni. The Europeans are the ones who do such things. There's no way I can invite somebody here and when he comes here, I arrest him. That is the kihuni. Isn't tabia za kihuni? In fact, I was surprised when Bashir went to South Africa that they were trying to arrest him, but that cannot happen here. If we are the ones who invited him, if he came, nothing will be done to him. We would protect him, because it is not only protecting Bashir, it is also our honor. Even if he's an enemy, you invite him, he comes here under the honor of your... so that is the Kiai way of thinking. Nothing would happen to Bashir if he came.
Yes, please.
Thank you, Your Excellencies. I'm Sam Ivan Mugabe, NBS Television Uganda. My question, I think, goes to the two presidents. We have been at the forefront of ensuring that tremendous achievements are done in development of the region. But we are seeing Tanzania has been constantly complaining that you are sidelining it. Why? Thank you.
I don't think there is a question of any country being sidelined. As we have said repeatedly, we are focused on opening up the entire region's infrastructure. So when it comes to the Northern Corridor, we have been having our meetings to develop this line from Mombasa through to Kampala, on to Kigali, Bujumbura, and also up to Juba. And we have been participating with leaders from all our East African countries. We are also working to develop the Southern Corridor from Dar es Salaam coming up. And as you know, very recently President Kikwete hosted the Southern Corridor meeting, because we want to fast track that. Our interest is to interlink our region, and we cannot do so and we cannot achieve our objective if we have the attitude of leaving some people out. We don't want to leave anybody out. We want to develop together. We want to move together. We want to open up all these corridors so that our people have the option and our investors have the option, and we must not only just look at looking at one corridor or another. All these corridors are important for the prosperity of our region, and we will continue to partner together with all East African community countries to achieve that particular objective. So the issue of anybody being left behind is not correct.
Okay, I want now a journalist from Kenya, specifically. Yes, the young lady.
My name is Jackie Maribe from Citizen Television in Kenya. Your Excellencies, I know you're keen on discussing Burundi and South Sudan and Somalia, but even as you discuss this, there has been conversation about term limits of presidents. What are your comments on that, considering you're in the same seats as well?
The what?
Term limits.
Oh, term limits.
Yes, sir.
Oh. That it was for discussion here, or you want our comments? Okay. The term limits, for us here in Uganda, we don't agree with term limits, and we rejected them. The reason is that what Africa lacks is not who, it is what is to be done. The sort of things we are talking about here in the communique: Federation of East Africa, Common Market of East Africa, Infrastructure of East Africa, Security of East Africa. That's what this part of the world lacks. It's not zamu, you know a little bit of Swahili? Zamu. It's not the issue of zamu ya huyu, zamu ya wire. That's not what Africa lacks. Africa is not backward because of that. Africa is backward because of the what have not been done. The integration is not done, or not done fully. The infrastructure is not developed. All those whats that are not yet done. So therefore, those who focus on those term limits and so on and so forth, we don't think that they are, in Uganda here, we don't think they are correct. And there are good examples. After all, this is democracy. If the people don't want a particular group, they vote them out. Every 5 years, you go for elections. And we have seen some countries. I can give you the example of Israel, for instance. That Israel started off in 1948 as a very poor country. But now it is a technological superpower. Small but very highly developed. And those pharaohs used maximally their leadership resources. You will find very old men like Shimon Peres, they are there. Younger ones like this one who is there now, Netanyahu, they are there. It's up to the people to choose. If they say we want the old man, they have him. If they say they don't want, they vote him out. So what is the problem? So we reject this business of term limits here in Uganda. In Kenya you have term limits, that's your business. Lakini sisi hapa tulikataa hiyo, tulisema bwana sisi tuko na kazi ya kufanya, na we have got let's have all our human leadership resources available. Since tuko na uwezo wa kuchagua, we can say you old man go home, you young one come. It was very interesting. Do you know what happened recently in Tunisia? Are you a well-read person? Mujuku, this one is a Mujuku now, not even a Binti. This is just a Mujuku. Do you know a country called Tunisia? You know that Tunisia went through upheavals. That democracy, I don't know what. Now at the end, do you know whom they voted for? A man of 88 years old. He's now the one who is president there now. 88 years, because they were already stuck, having made so many mistakes, misled by those who misled them. Now they went and resurrected this man. I don't know where he was. Over 88 years, this is the man who is there now, elected. And he was standing against younger people and so on, but the people said, no. To me, a choker. We have seen the problems. Bring that grandfather of 88. That's my comment on the term limits.
Okay.
Maybe His Excellency. Of course, for him, he would defend term limits.
Well, Your Excellency, I don't think it's a question of defending. I think, as you said, it's a question of choice because, as you have correctly said, the people of Kenya, through choice of the constitution that they voted in, stated that they were desirous to have term limits. But like I said before in Parliament, the most important thing here is the democratic will of the people. That is the most important aspect. So if the people themselves decide that they are not desirous of having term limits, you can also not force the issue on term limits to somebody who has said no. If the people are desirous, you must also, like we do in Kenya, abide and say the people of Kenya have constitutionally stated that they want term limits. So we must abide by the will of the people because the constitution is the embodiment of the will of the people. But what is most important is for us to recognize that there is no single formula that fits all. And I think the problem that we have sometimes is we try and fit all of us into one shoe. We don't recognize that there are those who wear size 4, others wear size 5, but they are all shoes. Yeah? But we don't need to force ourselves to fit into one particular size. What we need to do is to respect the democratic will of the people and to encourage that whatever system we have, it respects the democratic will of the people of that country or the people of that region. So I personally don't see any problem. Let us move on. Our issue is the prosperity, stability, and progress of our region, and I think that is where we need to focus our attention. On these other issues, let the people decide how they wish to be governed. That freedom must be given to them without necessarily imposing that which they don't want. That is what democracy is all about, after all.
Okay,
two more questions now.
Two more, yes.
From Kenya.
From Kenya, yes.
But they all look the same to me, so how do you tell? How do you tell who is a Kenyan and who is not?
You probably wanted a journalist who works with the Kenyan media. Well, my name is Bahati Remi. I work with NBS and KTN Kenya. My question particularly goes to my president, President Yoweri Museveni. You're actually avoiding term limits and rejecting the question of term limits. But while President Barack Obama visited President Kenyatta, they proceeded to Ethiopia, and you attended a meeting where you, my President Yoweri Museveni, the meeting which you also attended, and President Obama was castigating African leaders who want to rule for life or who want to be in power for so long. And here comes the scenario where my President Yoweri Museveni has been in power for 30 years, and President Uhuru Kenyatta could probably be going to seek for a re-election. So my question would be, what is your comment? I'm actually happy that I have both of you here. How do you respond to that statement which was made by Obama of wanting to rule for so long and staying in power? I know you don't want to talk about the question of term limits, but just comment about that. Then secondly, in the communication Honorable Keloriam read to us, you talked about free movement of labor and goods. My question to both of you, what new employment opportunities have you created? Like the two governments, what have you created for us, Ugandans and Kenyans, who would want to go to Kenya and others would love to come to Uganda, to avoid a scenario which happened in South Africa during the racist riots? Thank you so much.
Now, what do I say about what Mr. Obama said? I'm not responsible for what Obama says. I'm responsible for what we do in Uganda. I don't know what Mr. Obama meant by people being in power for a long time. But if I'm in power for a long time, being elected by the people, that shows that I am a very popular person. I'm doing the right thing, and I have no apologies to make to Obama or anybody else. And when you see what's happening in Uganda here, every 5 years of those years you are talking about, there is always, Uganda is at a higher level. As I speak today, the Uganda government is able to finance by itself almost 93% of the budget. That was not the case at the beginning. So that time you are talking about is not wasted time at all. It is time that has been used to build capacity. And if anybody is not happy with that, then we have no apologies to him. The people like Mr. Obama, they don't discuss this with us. If he had raised it, we would have discussed it. What we discussed, we discussed. What he said was in another meeting where I was not, so that's none of my business. And in the Western countries, by the way, it's only the US which has got term limits. How about the other countries? I've told you of Israel,
United Kingdom,
Germany, all those don't have term limits. So what are they talking about? I don't think you should waste time really with that, all those points. What is crucial is what we think. We are going to have elections in Uganda. I have now picked forms for my party. And the Ugandans will tell you what they think about term limits. You just wait a few they will give you their opinion. Now about the free movement of people, we don't have any problem here. I haven't seen, because we are talking about South Africa, that it can be like South Africa where what they call xenophobia, which itself is a wrong word, because xeno means foreign. What was happening in South Africa should have been called fratricidal, something like that. Brother against brother, not xenophobia. Well, that was for South Africa to deal with. The other time when we were there, I told them that President Zuma acted very well because he acted very firmly, arrested those people who were involved, and they were prosecuted. Because if you look at, for instance, South Africa benefits more from Africa than Africa benefits from South Africa. They sell a lot of things to Africa, and find South Africans the ones who are resenting other Africans being in South Africa is a big mistake. So similarly here, Kenya is benefiting from Uganda. Uganda is benefiting from Kenya. How can anybody see a problem among Ugandans moving to Kenya or vice versa? What is needed is to regulate it, to make sure that the movement is done legally, not illegally. That's all. But otherwise, for me, I'm always for free movement of our people.
Well, me, I don't know why you are addressing me. I'm only starting my third year. I don't know why you are addressing me to that particular question. But unless you think 3 years is too low, we are just starting. So on the second issue, I think I completely concur with President Museveni. Yesterday evening, I had the opportunity to address many hundreds of Kenyans who are working here in Uganda and who are happy with the hospitality that they have enjoyed while they have been working here. Yes, there are some few issues here and there, more administrative, but from a policy point of view, we are very clear that we want to encourage our people to move, to trade, and to do business together. And again, as has been stated, the kind of relationship that exists between our two countries and our two peoples, it is very difficult to tell some of those border communities that you cannot host your neighbor when, in many instances, they are family. And I think vice versa. You will also recall that even when Uganda had problems under the regime of President Idi Amin, many Ugandans also were settled and lived in Kenya, and they lived as brothers and sisters with no problems. So for us, I think we are one. All we need to continuously do is to see how we can improve our ability to break down these little administrative barriers that become hindrances to our people.
The final one.
From Kenya? No one from Kenya? Yeah, okay, the last one.
Frederick Mosisi. I'm here in two capacities, as a Daily Monitor and Kampala Nation Media Group in Nairobi, so that makes me from Uganda. Two questions I have. Just on the issue touched in the communique of...
Mosisi cannot be a Kenyan.
Yeah, but my employers are in Nairobi, Nation Media Group, so I'm representing them ably. Two issues. On the issue of the pipeline, that you've agreed to have a pipeline that crosses through Lokicha. I mean, we have Uganda, we have already proven oil, volumes of 4.5 billion, and in Kenya, you're yet to confirm any commercial viability of even 1 billion barrels. And we've agreed that Uganda, we have negotiations going on regarding the refinery. I mean, this whole, infrastructure adding on, building up on the other. Don't you think as leaders that there's need to have harmony, to first have something go, and then you have another move on? For example, have the refinery first, and then the pipeline second, because you seem on agreeing on so many things and which are not moving out of the way. Now I don't know who of you will answer that. Secondly, this is a question from my employers in Nairobi. Going to Mr. Kenyatta. Your Excellency, your colleague says that, he's elected after 5 years, which is true. But what do you make of the argument that no matter how popular a leader is, you have to live when you're still, beloved, and just step aside and let other people, Because when he took power, you were about 24, 1986, and you seem now be sitting on the same seat, and you leave him there. What do you make of the argument that a leader is supposed to live when he's popular? Thanks very much.
Now, on the issue of the refinery and the pipeline, that's not for Kenya to decide. That one we have already decided here with the oil companies, because for us, we wanted a refinery. The oil companies wanted also export of crude, and crude involves a pipeline. So that's what we have already decided. We have already agreed with the oil companies. So the only issue how Kenya comes in is, should the pipeline go through Kenya? And if so, where? In the north or in the south? That's all. That's how Kenya comes in. Even if Kenya had no oil of their own, would still have the pipeline. So the issue of how much oil Kenya has found is neither here nor there. Even if there was no oil at all, still the pipeline would go through the least costly route. That is really the issue about the pipeline and the refinery. About the other issue, you can ask his opinion about leaders going when they are loved and so on. That is for him to. That was your question. Or the question to you.
I think the only point, because I agree on the issue of the pipeline. The pipeline is the pipeline. First, there is adequate resources, and even before Kenya had found commercially, and I want to correct you there because we have found commercially viable quantities of oil. But even before Kenya had found any viable quantities, we were already in discussion with Uganda on the basis of partnering together to establish an oil refinery here in Uganda. So that was already an ongoing discussion. Secondly, with regard to the pipeline, the refinery alone cannot take the capacity of oil that Uganda alone has to produce. So Uganda must still also find a way of ensuring that that oil gets to market. And as President Museveni has said correctly, the only issue that remains, which is what we have gone through, is for us to be able to find the cheapest route to take, the shortest route to take, the most economical route to take, because it has to go through somewhere. And these are the discussions that we have been having. So to say that we do the pipeline and then we do the refinery, or we do the refinery and then do the pipeline, these are issues that go together. They are part and parcel, and they must be worked on at the same time. It is not one and then the other. They both go and must be developed concurrently. With regard to the last part of your issue as to whether a person should go when they are popular, or what is the essence of an election? I thought the essence of an election is to remove unpopular leaders. When you go for an election, isn't that where you prove the popularity or otherwise of a leader? So to say that go when you're popular, the popularity is not determined by newspaper articles. It's determined by the votes every 5 years. And that is what determines whether a leader is popular or not. As to the system people use, like I said, if Ugandans have chosen the route that term limits are not important, and what they want is the ability to choose and to elect their leader, we must respect that. Because after all, there are many countries across the globe, yeah, that have no term limits, including some of those Western countries themselves. They don't have term limits. The United Kingdom, Germany, France, they don't have term limits. So, you know, we shouldn't really focus on that. What we should focus is the democratic process, that the popular will of the people is respected. That should be our focus. And that popular will is what determines whether a leader is popular or not. We have seen leaders who have been there for a long time voted out. We have also seen leaders who have been elected for a short time also voted out. So, you know, popularity is a question of how you deliver on your promises to the people who gave you the opportunity. So mine is to say that let us focus more on the democratic principle, on the right of people to choose their leaders through the ballot. That is what determines who leads and when they lead and for how long.
The one problem is that people think that leadership has the aim of improving people's CVs, so that they say so and so was a former minister, so and so was a former president. We are not talking about improving people's CVs. We are talking about missions. Missions, like these things we are talking about here in the communique. Those are missions. East African Federation, that's a mission. Infrastructure development in East Africa, that's a mission. Economic integration. This should be your concerns, the missions. But you are not talking about missions, you are talking about CVs. You talk about CVs, how people can improve their CVs by. We are not part of that. For us, we are talking about missions. Okay, I think we have finished.
Thank you very much, Your Excellency. That marks the end of the press conference.
Very good.
On his last task as on his last task as visiting as a state visitor here in Kampala, stressing the fact that integration is important for the two regions, and also emphasizing that if the standard gauge railway is dealt with as planned in the past communications, then the transport system, the ease of doing business in the two countries will be dealt with. Also, part of this, what came out of this press conference, is the issue of term limits. Some journalists seeking to find out a response from the two leaders, and President Uhuru Kenyatta categorically saying that we should instead focus on the democratic processes, and President Yoweri Museveni humorously saying that Ugandans will determine whether or not he's popular, as he has always emphasized. Now, this marks the end of the official visit of President Uhuru Kenyatta, but after here, they're reconstituting themselves into the IGAD, into an IGAD. They're going to have talks concerning regional issues, and that will include South Sudan as a key priority. We understand that Omar el-Bashir, the president of Sudan, is not coming, and it is the foreign affairs minister of that country that will be representing him here at the talks. Shiland Huchre is my name. Thank you so much for having joined us, and for all the time since Saturday when President Uhuru came here. Thank you so much, and you will be able to catch the details of all these stories since he visited Parliament at about 11:15 a.m. and until now, when he has concluded his state visit. You will get all that in our bulletins, NTV, at Akaongezi and NTV tonight. From me, Shiland Huchre, thank you so much for having joined us. I'll now hand you back to studio for normal programming.